All right, hopefully this works, and the screens will be shared. All right, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go through a bunch of hands that I played last night. My session last night was a pretty quiet session. I made like 30 bucks. My equity was like 50 bucks or 60 bucks. But I didn't have many big hands throughout the night. Had pocket kings once, as you'll see. But a very quiet night. I had to grind out some money, and that included getting unlucky a bunch of times. What we're gonna focus on is the reason behind moves and plans for future streets whenever we make an action. You'll see what I mean. All right. So now you have a limp from this guy. You have a raise from this guy. I'd like you to take a second and think what you would do here. Now let's talk about a little bit of extra information. This guy's only played one hand and he limped in it. This guy has only played 18 hands, but he's raised 5 or 17 hands so far. This is his 18th, but he's raised 5 of them. And he's played 7 of 17. So he's been very active with his raises. And therefore, he looks to be he looks to be raising very wide. Now, if you said call, you could be right. However, I think raise is a better play here. Because when you raise, you have a chance to take down all this dead money, $3 for nothing, and the three dead dollars in front of you. And just calling, again, he may have a better ace than you. It's not a bad playing position. I think the better play is to raise. And let's see. That's what happens. I raise at the full size of the pot, fold, fold. Everybody folds to me, and it's beautiful. Okay. Screen sharing has stopped as the window is closed. Time for me to, I hope it's still recording. It's time for me to share another screen. Is this meeting not running? No, it appears to be running. It's recording. Give me a second. Share screen. I see what I did. Okay. On to the next hand. Let's do this hand. I guess I'll have to do it one at a time here. All right. King, queen under the gun. It's 5-handed table. Think about what your action is. Now, things to know, to look behind you. The 2 guys that would be in position on you if they called. This guy only calls 18% of the time. This guy calls 26% of the time. So there's a good chance that if you raise, these 2 guys fold. And there's a good chance, well, these guys are not very active either, but maybe one of them calls you in the blinds. And if not, you take the pot down for nothing. So this is an easy raise. Fold, fold. Small blind calls, big blind folds. Okay. Flop comes 10. Oops. Flop comes 10-2-3. What do you do? 10-3-3. What do you do? Now, here's the deal. He's calling from the small blind, so his range is very, very wide without many threes in it. He could have a 10 and be ahead of you, but the majority of his range includes hands that do not connect with this board. They may be ahead of you even, but they don't connect with this board. So a small bet should be enough to take this down, or at least allow you to put more pressure on after the flop. My plan here would be to small bet 100% of the time, whether I have whether I'm ahead or whether I'm behind. Here I'm behind. King, queen is not a great hand in this situation, but I need to be unreadable. So I'd be doing this with pocket jacks, pocket nines, ace 10, as well as king, queen offsuit. And my plan would be on any jack, queen, king, or 10 to bet again on the turn. Why? It's because if he's calling, there's a good chance he's got a 10 or a middle pair below a 10. And, that's likely what he would be calling with, my flop bet that I'm about to make. And therefore, any jack, queen, king, or 10 would be a scare card to all the hands that would be calling here. I hope that makes sense. So he checks, I bet really small, a third of the pot, and he calls. Okay, turn is a queen. Now, it happens to be this pair is my card. This pair is the board. So now I'm almost certainly ahead. He could have pocket 10s. He could have a hand like ace 3, but there are very few hands that he has that are ahead of me. The majority of those hands that he actually called with are single 10s, 10 jack, 10 jack, 10 9, maybe queen 10, although unlikely. Especially as I block that because I'm holding a queen as well. Pocket 9s, pocket 8s, pocket 7s, pocket 6s. Those are his likely calling hands. So the thing is this, with this queen on the board, remember I said a queen could likely get a fold. Now I don't want to fold. So I don't know if you would do this, but now I choose to check behind. because I think if I bet, I for sure get a fold. But if I check here, it may look like I'm scared of the queen, and that may allow him to call a bet on the river. I may be, if I bet, I certainly get a fold. However, on the river, if I check here, I may actually get a bet out of him on the river. He checks, I check behind. Okay, it's a blank. He leads into me. He leads 2,028 cents into the pot. I'm not sure what the right play here is. I'm certainly not folding. Is the right play to re-raise? Is the right play to call? I just called here. And of course, I'm good. He shows, I believe, pocket eights. And as you can see, with those pocket eights, we were, we got an extra bet out of him because he almost certainly would have folded the queen, and then we got him to give an extra bet. And again, 2,088 cents doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 5.5 big blinds. And my win rate is only 10 big blinds per 100 hands. So 5.5 big blinds, those extra bets in the river make the difference between a winning loop player and a break-even player. It's a big deal. Okay, now we know how to share the screen though, so don't worry. Boom, next hand. Ace queen, under the gun. What do you do here? If you said anything but raise, you're doing okay. There's only one player, and it's the raise. And I raise my standard raise 3 times the pot. Interesting. 1, 2, 3. 3 callers to me. Now, what do you do here? To me, this is a check all day long. Now, please note that you actually have a decent hand here. Why a decent hand? You have nothing. If you take a look, you have a double gutter straight draw, meaning 2 gut shot straight draws. A 9 gives you a straight 8 to queen, and a king gives you the nut straight. So 2 cards out there make you really happy. An ace may make you happy. An ace could put you ahead, but out of position, you're still not thrilled about that. And then any heart makes you very happy, because even though you wouldn't have a flush, if a turn brings a heart, A, you have a flush draw to the nuts, or possibly the nuts. I guess it could be a straight draw out there, a straight flush draw out there, but they're realistic nuts. And B is that you can represent as if you have a flush, and as if you have the nut flush, because since you're holding the ace of hearts, you know that none of them are, and therefore you can really apply pressure as a bluff later on. So this is a hand that I definitely want to play. However, I definitely don't want to bet here. If you said bet here, you're wrong. I definitely do not want to bet here, because what the heck am I folding out that, over here? You'd want to fold out your bluffs here. You'd want to fold out stronger hands. No stronger hands fold here. Every jack calls, every 9 calls, because they have an open-ended straight draw. There's 2 pair possibilities out here. There's set possibilities out here. You're out of position against 3 people, makes it all more likely. So to me, this is a check and probably a call all day, depending on the size of the bet. As you see, I check. This guy checks. We have a bet. We have a bet for about half the pot. He bets 371 to 675, and we are going to call here. You could get tricky and 3-bet. The problem is that if you 3-bet, he's really only calling you. No, that's not true. He's mostly calling you with hands that beat you. He could be calling you with draws. King queen, with ace 9, with 2 hearts, with whatever. So there are those. So there are some hands that you could be ahead of if you 3-bet and he called, if you re-raised him. But that being said, I don't like the raise here. To me, this is a simple call. We're not getting the perfect odds to call to hit our straights, but given that we have bluff outs, given that the ace could be good enough for us, and given that we can get more money on the river too, that's called implied odds, this to me is a call. So we call, the other guy folds, and we're heads up. Now, I should have asked you what would be your plan on the turn. My plan on the turn would have been, any 9, which would give us the straight we bet. Any king, which would give us the straight we bet. Any heart, which would give us, the nut flush draw, we bet because we bet and we bet big because we want to make it look like we have the nut flush already. And we can do that because we know that they don't have the ace of hearts because we're holding it. So that would have been my plan. And any ace, I would have check called. A queen, interestingly enough, completes a lot of 9 flush draws, which he could have. So I wouldn't be thrilled with a queen. I would check and maybe even fold to a bet if the queen came. But unless it was the queen of hearts. But that being said, a 3 is a total blank. So now my plan here is to check and give up to any bet. So I check, but he, interestingly, checks behind. Now, what's he checking behind with? He's probably checking behind with a lot of draws. That's probably all that he's checking behind with. So any case, I can see him having king queen. I can't really see him having a heart draw. Can you see why? Hit pause for a second and see if you can figure out why he can't really have a heart draw. Okay, so hopefully hit pause. I'll tell you the answer. The answer is because, there's so many hearts on the board and that we're holding. What could he have? He can't have any ace high heart draw because we're holding the ace. He can't have ace king. He can't have king queen because the king is on the board. He can't have queen jack because, the jack is on the board. He can't have queen 10 because the queen is on the board. Maybe you can stretch and say he's got queen 9 or 9-8 or 7-8. But it's unlikely. It's unlikely. 7-8 maybe because that would explain his bet on the flop, and with a pair and a draw and a serious combo draw. But he should still be betting the turn then also, most of the time. So it's just not likely that he's got a flush. Although it is possible, very remotely though. It's more likely that he has maybe a straight draw. Maybe he's got a hand like king queen where he hit the king. Maybe he's got a hand like queen 9 where he had a straight the whole time, and now I have a better straight. So any case, but he's also got a lot of missed straight draws, ace 9, things like that. So I think here if I bet, I scare him off. I may check here to induce a bet. Is what I did. Let's see. I checked. He bet. And now the only question is, do I raise? He bet really small. I think I just called. Yeah, but either way, again, I got another 8. Got him to bet. He had the open-ended straight draw that ended up backing into a top pair there. Don't blame his bet, but of course we were ahead of it, and we got him to bet a little more. I don't think he would have called if he re-raised. So even though maybe we should have re-raised here, with that hand, there's a flush draw, straight draw, everything on the board. I don't think he would have called a re-raise, although maybe we should have re-raised anyway. In any case, that bet on the river is an extra 8 blinds, makes a big difference. Okay, next hand. Nice and simple. There's a raise, okay? There's a raise. This guy does not raise often. What do? If you said re-raise, you're wrong. Because if you re-raise here, then he's only 4-betting you with hands that beat you, and then you have to throw away your 8s, and you lost all the set equity. And if this was a looser player that's been raising a lot, maybe you can 3-bet. But in my opinion, it's wrong to raise here. It's certainly wrong to fold here. The only option here is a call, in my opinion, which we do. Fold and a call. 3 ways to the flop. Flop comes 7-5-4. Okay. Now, this is a good flop for us. Analyze this for a second. Good flop for us. We have an overpair. We have a backdoor. We have a straight draw. 6 gives us a straight. We have backdoor diamond draw, although that's probably not very exciting for us because it's only a middling diamond. That being said, it's a pretty good flop for us. We're definitely calling a bet here. But there is no bet here. It comes to us. It folds to us. What do? So now you've seen me betting small before. Over here, I think the right play is certainly to bet and to bet larger. The reason why larger is because we like this flop, but there are a lot of turns that we don't like. Any 9, 10, jack, queen, king, or ace makes us very unhappy. Any diamond makes us very unhappy. Even an 8, which would give us a set, doesn't make us so happy because then anybody holding a 6 beats us. So we want to charge any draws. We want to take the betting lead. And so here we're betting large, which we do, 2/3 pot, and we instantly get 2 folds. Congratulations, we take down the pot, and because we recognize that was a situation in which we should be betting. Next hand. All right. What do? 1 fold to you, ace, queen suited. If you said anything but raise, you're out of your mind. This is an easy raise. We get fold, small blind calls, good. We're in the dream situation, which is we're in position on the blind with top pair, okay? With top pair with an excellent kicker. There are better kickers, but ace-king is not likely to be calling us here. If you look at the type of player that he is, he actually has never 3-bet before, so maybe he could have ace-king, but even so, like ace-king is such a standard raise, we just have to assume when there's 30 hands, he hasn't had a chance to 3-bet, So we likely have the best ace here. This is a hand, by the way, I think I noted for myself because I don't think I played this hand well. So this was not for you guys, but as long as it's here, you'll see a little bit of my thought process. So in any case, what are you thinking here, right? He's going to check nearly all the time because I raised before the flop. And I'm betting small here. Why am I betting small here? Is because I want calls. If I bet big, I'm going to get a lot of hands that I would like to call to fold. What are those hands? Weaker aces, ace jack, ace 10, ace 9, ace 8. What else do I want to call? Middle pairs, pocket fives, pocket sevens, pocket eights, pocket nines, pocket tens. Of course, hands like pocket sixes and pocket fours that have me beat would call. Of course, if there is a way that he shows up with ace 6 or ace king even, and the aces that beat me, then I'm just going to lose. But there's so many more hands that I am ahead of that he could call with if I bet small than there are hands that are ahead of me. So this to me is a small bet all day long, which I do. I bet a third of the pot, and he promptly calls. Turn brings a 4. I think that's a good card for me. I don't like that a spade draw came out there because it could be, but the thing is, if he really can't have a flush draw. I didn't think I realized this at the time, but I'm realizing this now. Why can't he have a flush draw? Is because what flushes call my small bet there? King queen of spades isn't calling, and the only flush draw that really could be calling me there is a 6 of spades. Like if he has like 6, 7 of spades, that's the kind of hand that could call me, or a 5, 6 of spades. So it's possible. That's the only flush draw that I really see him having, because he's holding the ace. No other flush draws really calling me, and of course he can't have the 4 of spades because it's on the board. So there are a few flush draws that could be there, combo draws, but very unlikely. And so I'm really not even paying attention to the flush draws, or I shouldn't be paying attention to the flush draws. I'm thinking in my head that he probably has a middle pair or a weaker ace. So again, when he checks, I probably would do the same strategy, bet small again. Let's see. He checks, and I do bet small again, and he calls again. The river brings seemingly a bad card for us. But first of all, when the 6 of spades comes, that eliminates every single flush draw he can have. Unless he floated me, on a bet with king, queen of spades, which makes no sense on the flop. There's really no spade draw anymore that he can have with the 4 and 6 on the board. Does he have a 4 or a 6? It's possible. It's possible he called me with a small bet with a pair of 6s or a pair of 4s, but more likely is a weaker ace or middle pairs, and there are a lot more of those. So this is the mistake I reviewed, is if you see he checked behind, and then I checked too, and we won, and he had pocket 5s. So now I don't know if he would have called another small bet on the river, but you know what? I think that this was a very poor check behind for me. I should have at least attempted to go for some value here, maybe another small bet, of $3, $4, to see if I can get him to call a few more dollars in. Bad play by me, but what can you do except for learn from it? All right. This was an interesting hand. I never play this hand except when it's limped to me on the button. Now, I could raise here, but, I could raise here. And if you look to my left, there's a good call for raising because this guy does limp a lot. However, he doesn't fold a lot. He doesn't fold to C bets a lot. He only folds half the time to 3 bets. And this guy here folds even less to C bets and 3 bets. And neither of these guys like to fold. So even though you could think about raising, because I have an ace, which means they're less likely to have an ace, which means there are more hands that they can fold to my big raise here. I don't think that these guys are folding types of personalities, and so I am just calling. And I don't like now this flop is good for me actually. Think about this. This is a limped pot, not a raised pot. So they can have, this guy's playing 45% of hands. This guy's playing 77% of hands. They're playing so many hands that a majority of them don't have jacks in them. Majority of them are big aces, kings, queens. So though they could have jacks, likely they don't. More than half the time, neither one of them has a jack. They could have club draws that can call me. They could have a 4-5 that can call me. But that being said, is with middle pair, I miss a chancer. Looking at this now, I think this is a bet. However, I just check, and they both check behind me. I think I missed a chance here. Turn is a great card for me, gives an ace, gives me 2 pair. It also gives them the chance to hit a weaker 2 pair, jack 6, 6-3. They're playing very wide here. This is not standard players. These are weaker players. And so when you have a 2 pair, and the other 2 pairs on the board, get excited. Now, again, they could have ace jack. These are weirder players, that like to call a lot and not be very aggressive. So ace jack is possible. Of course, pocket 3s and 6s are possible, but they're just so remote compared to all the other hands they could have that, you have to assume you're ahead. So over here with a $1.50 in the pot, I would like to begin betting. If there's a flush draw, maybe I can get a call. If there's a weaker ace, maybe I can get a call. If there's a straight draw. So I'm assuming I bet big here. I bet the full pot. I bet a buck 43 into a buck 50. Now he re-raises me. Well, let's go back to that again for a second. You know, he actually re-raises me my action here, but he min raises it. Very strange. Usually when people re-raise you, they re-raise you bigger. A min raise is a very, very odd thing to do, which makes sense because this player we can tell is not a great player. And so therefore, I'm definitely not folding with top two. The question is, am I re-raising? I think because I'm scared I'd chase him away, I think I just called. I don't think I did it because because I thought he had a hand. If I thought he had a hand, of course I would bet bigger. But it just confused me at the time, so I simply called. My plan, by the way, with a simple call is depending on the turn. There are even scenarios where I can fold because this guy has not been aggressive. You know, he's only been his aggression factor is only 1, which is very low. This guy's aggression factor is 7. You know, my aggression factor at this point is infinite. I've literally bet every chance I had in the first 30 hands. So you know, his aggression factor is really low. And so when he checks, so when he re-raises me, it makes me scared. However, when the river brings an 8 and he checks, I really should be betting here. When he checks to me, he tells me, you know, his story isn't complete. You know, the re-raise in the turn with a check on the river, it's just a very weird story. And so I should be betting here. I should be betting big here, try to make it look like a bluff maybe, like I missed my flush draw. There's a lot of missed flushes that I can have that maybe if he has like an ace, or even like wants to get sticky with a jack or a middle pair, maybe I can get a call. You know, of course, he may just have a busted draw and fold, but, you know, you got to try. So at this point, I do try. I make a bet, and he calls me. I don't see what he has, but whatever he had was good enough for me to call. I think he must have had like a weaker ace, you know, or like 10 jack or something in order to call me. And I'm happy because we won. You know, we won an extra. How much was that on my river bet? Do you remember? It's just super important. The river bet, I bet 515. I bet over 10 big blinds. My win rate is 10 big blinds per 100 hands. So this is my entire win rate here. Other than that, you know, 99 more hands on average, you know, if you factor this in, and I'm basically a break-even player. So you have to make sure to be able to make these little bets where you could get called, you know. And again, you know, because I simply called him when he re-raised me on the turn, I may look like I have a draw, like a flush draw, and thereby, you know, get a weaker hand to call me. So I actually like how I played this hand. All right, next hand. I think 2 more to go. This is the most painful one, but we played it well. You guys will appreciate this given what you know. Okay, ready? Limp, fold, fold. Okay, so we have a limp from an early player who limps a lot. You know, he sees 36% of all hands, but only raises 4%, so meaning he's really limping a lot with mediocre hands. And this guy, in 25 hands, has seen 20 of them. You know, so he's in 80% of the time, although he has not been very aggressive. That said, he chooses this chance on the button to raise. I don't mind that play by him, but if I were him, I would raise a little bit bigger. His smaller raise screams to me of weakness. And so, you know, with ace-10 in the small blind, I'm thinking I'm probably the best hand here, and so I'm going to be 3-betting him. I 3-bet him to 650, and he surprises me with a shove all in. Now, what do you do here? Let's figure it out. I have to call $12.45 more to win 26.45. So the pot odds are giving me 32%, okay? I need to be ahead 32% of the time. Now remember we learned that ace-10 against ace-king, ace-10 suited against ace-king has about 32%. So even there, I probably have the right odds to call. When you factor in bluffs, I probably have even better odds to call. Let's take a look in actual real-world circumstances. Let's see. I have ace club. I hope you can see my screen. I'm actually going to, just in case you couldn't, we're going to do this on O ranges. What can he be doing that with limp raising? I think he could be doing it with all pocket pairs, although kings and queens are less likely, but let's put them in there. I think he can be doing it with ace-9 suited plus, maybe with ace-5 plus. I think he can be, you know, I think without even figuring bluffs, he could be doing it with this range of hands. And against this range of hands, ace-10 of clubs, although an underdog, has 39% equity. Certainly enough equity to make this a profitable call. If you factor in a few random bluffs that he could have, you know, factor in a few random bluffs, and all of a sudden, you know, my equity jumps to 43%, which makes it a trivially easy call. And you will see that I was right and I was wrong. So I call. This is the run out. I have an ace on the turn. I have to feel I'm pretty good now, unless he's got a better ace, which is, which is not likely. And he shows Queen 3 of spades. Definitely one of his bluffs. And he got there on the river, and I lost a decent sized pot. Now, again, you can't be unhappy. You want people like that to play with you. You understand that people like that are going to beat you sometimes. But we actually got it in as probably, 63, 64% favorite, and lost. I hope you can see this screen of how it played out. I realize you may not be able to. So let me just quickly share that screen with you again. Sorry, Zoom was giving me trouble, that's why. Bear with me. Okay. New share. This is how it ran out. And I'll just play the whole hand for you very quickly again, just in case you didn't see it. If you did, you can skip ahead a few seconds. But any case, this is the run out, and he had the heartbreaking Queen 3. What you gonna do? Last hand to share. Pocket kings on the button. Does it get better than that? Only by one notch, in my opinion, especially because if you take a look, this guy limps a lot. So let's see. Sir limp a lot. Min raises. It's actually his first raise. He's only played 7 hands, but he's been in 4 of them. Now this is 8th hand, so he's been 5 of them. It's his first raise, but it's a small raise. If he's got aces, he's just gonna stack through me. But with pocket kings, I'm raising all day long. I raise 2 folds, and that guy calls. Flop comes 7-7 deuce. You've learned by now, I hope. What do you do here? He checks to you. What do you do? Of course, you have 2 options. You can either check and give him a chance to, to catch up. I like that better with aces, honestly. With kings, an ace could come and you get in a weird position. I personally like down betting very small compared to the pot. The pot is 825. Reason I like down betting is it allows, sometimes an ace will float you, and he'll call me with just an ace. You'll get lots of middle pairs to call. He could have 7s. If he's got a 7, he's just going to double up through me, but more likely for him to have all those middle pairs that he can have, or an ace high kind of hand, or maybe even ace deuce kind of hand for all we know. But, I choose to bet small here, which I think is the right play. I bet just 242 into a pot of 825, like almost 30% of the pot. And that tiny bet gets him to call. River is a 4. Doesn't really bring much that he could connect with here. He could have a diamond draw, but I block a bunch of those diamond draws with my king. So, when he checks to me, I feel I'm likely ahead. Oh, and I make maybe a mistake. Maybe a second small bet I felt would have chased him away. And so I check behind on the turn, hoping to get one last bet on the river. Now, diamond comes in the river, but what diamonds is he really calling me with on the flop with a small bet? Maybe an ace, an ace high flush draw with, if he's got 2 diamonds, but that's not so likely. There's really no diamond draws that I'm nervous about here. So, I'm pretty sure I'm ahead, and I've given him the chance to hit a 9 or top pair or something like that. So in any case, he bets. Whoops. He actually bombs the river. He bets the river big. He bets, not big, he bets 622 into 1309. He's only got 819 left. Now, I'm definitely not folding here. The question is calling or raising. I run through my hand all the hands that I beat. I beat 9, I beat, ace 9. I beat, all the pocket pairs. I lose the diamond draws, but he doesn't have that many there. If he's got a 7, he's just got me beat, but I don't think he would have played it that way. I think he would have bet the turn. So in any case, rather than just calling, he's got 819 left. I decide to go for the whole thing, and I bet all in, and he calls, and I get that extra $8, those extra 14 big blinds. I don't know what he had, but certainly he had, maybe he hit a 9, which is very possible, which would have given me the win. Maybe he had a pair. I think he only calls this with a pocket 9 or a pocket pair. Pocket 9, pocket 8s, pocket 10s, pocket 6s, pocket 5s. Those are the only things that can call. But I guess that turn on that check on the turn actually helped me out over here. All right, guys. Thanks for your patience and for your time.